Started so we can keep everything on time. Again, thank you all for coming. I really didn't want to start the announcements because I'm enjoying the music so much, so I really didn't want to stop it. All right, let's get started with our announcements for this evening. Again, as you know, the usual routine, we'll do announcements first. We'll do the required break, and then we'll start with our presentation for this evening. First thing I want to do, okay, I didn't hit that button twice, did I? Okay. First thing I want to do is I want to recognize our executive board. We have a tremendously hardworking, dependable, reliable, great people to work with. They're really stepping in, especially our new volunteers. They're just doing a marvelous job. So I really want, and I think I have to stop the roll here. Wait, I've had this problem before. Okay. So please, members of our executive board, please stand up, rise, and be recognized. Come on, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. And I also want to extend a tremendous thanks, also reaching out to our college students. Tonight is college night, and we have a number of them represented. Of course, our young professionals, along with our awards and recognition, and of course, K through 12 outreach. And we'll hear about K through 12 outreach tonight when we talk about the upcoming science fair. So again, we're trying to bring value to you through these various ways that you interface with our section. Okay. Again, tonight is college night, and we'd like to welcome, I know we have Prairie View A&M here tonight. Recognize them. Anybody here from U of H? We're Rice. Okay, so Prairie View A&M. And we welcome them, and we also had some great workshops for them today. Our dinner presentation will be done by Leonard Levine, who is the Technical Director of Gulf Coast Wastewater Disposal Authority, and he'll be talking about biological wastewater treatment in the chemical industry. Now, the one thing we've done this year is we have established all the meetings for the year. So you now know all the subjects for the year. This is our second meeting here at Brady's Landing. Our next meeting is March 2nd right here at Brady's Landing. We're going to be hearing from the Port of Houston Authority, talking about the state of the port, global trade, and environmental stewardship. And of course, they want to do it here because they can overlook their real estate here on the ship town. So, and then our energy forum is on the 6th. Then we're going to hear about good engineering practice for emergency relief system design on the 4th. Our annual ship channel tour in June. On the west side, we're going to be talking about process safety. And of course, our Southwest Process Technology Conference is in October. And then our water forum here in November, where we're going to be hearing from the Houston Subsidence District. A little different topic for us. As sort of an advertisement here, your company can host an AIChE STS meeting. If any other companies are interested in hosting the meeting, our specifications are very simple. Space for 100, space for workshops, the ability to provide this fine dining and catering, free parking, occasionally security checks, we can accommodate that. So if your company would like to host a STS meeting, let me know. See what we can do, especially on the west side of town. If you can't attend an AIChE meeting, we are on YouTube. In fact, we're on YouTube right now, so in case you can't, we hope, if you cross our fingers. So in case you miss a meeting, go on YouTube, and you can watch the meeting. We're also looking for volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers, but in particular, we need additional assistance with our newsletter. So if anybody has some spare time and would like to contribute to the local section, please contact me afterwards, and we're looking for some help with our newsletter. Again, I said our March 2nd meeting is the Port Authority. Will Whitehouse, who's the Senior Manager of Trade Development, will be speaking. So the other thing that we offer is sponsorship. In fact, tonight, our meeting is sponsored by Gulf Coast Wastewater Disposal Authority. They're a proud sponsor. We appreciate that. And And if your company would like to sponsor a meeting, talk to Kelly Richardson. She's our advertising and sales and marketing person. And she can arrange for you to have your company sponsor a meeting. It's a great way to provide a shameless plug for your company to this excellent group of chemical engineers. And we have 3 different levels. We have a bronze sponsor, silver, and gold, and I can give you all those details afterwards. And again, this year so far, our sponsors have been Systech, Gulf Coast Wastewater Disposal Authority, and Province Consulting are our 3 sponsors so far this year. And let's see if we can add to the list. Season Pass. Our Season Pass program this year has been tremendously successful. There are 35 really smart people out there who took advantage of our Season Pass. So they paid once, and they got the whole year covered. They don't have to remember to register for the meeting, and they're all set. So again, we thank our Season Pass members, and I have their names listed here. This is 31. We've had 4 more since I created this slide. And yes, your special badges are on order. Who wants to mentor someone? So these are ways that we get people to break the ice when you look at your different color in your badge and say, hey, I have a question for you. And you've already indicated that you're willing to answer that question. So that's what the little different colored stickers are all about, a way to break the ice. So enough about me. It's our education portion of this program. First of all, I'd like to really thank Sanjay Sharma for preparing our 2 workshops today. I'd like to thank the 2 speakers from our workshops, both Jack Sosnak and Vic Edwards, for presenting, and we'd like to thank them for their contribution to their workshops today. Thank you. This is a question we get at every meeting. If you need PDH credits, place your business card or sign up on the main table, and we will send you the PDH form that you need for the meeting. So again, this is a question we're always asked, and we're trying to make this as easy as possible for you. So either sign up on the sheet that Sanjay has laid out, or give us your business card, and we'll get those certificates to you. Carol, I'm going to mention the PE. Do you want to mention anything? Or is that we're full? Oh, sorry, we're full. I'll take that slide out. But that's really a great thing. We have a tremendous turnout for our PE review course. And everyone passes, right, Carol?
No. We promote that it is the most efficient way to study. Not guarantee results, we guarantee you become better.
All right. Again, we thank Carol for help organizing that. I'd like to call this time Tom Rem to talk about recognition and networking. Tom?
Let's see, I never use this thing. Oh, it's to the right, okay. Okay. Let's see. This is actually Tom Men's thing here.
Sure, come on up.
Yeah, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'll advance these slides for you. Come on up.
Okay, it's awards time. These damn things are too bright. We're looking for the 2016 Best Applied Paper Award, 2016 Best Fundamental Paper Award, 2016 Outstanding Young Professional Award, and 2016 Distinguished Service Award, and any special service awards. Contact myself or Matt Christensen, and or go to the AIChE website, and I think you can nominate there. I haven't tried it lately. Now, what's next? Okay, 2017 Offshore Technology Conference. We need volunteers, first through at NRG Park, Houston, Texas. If you volunteer, you receive a free pass to the entire OTC, a parking pass that's in and out privileges, good for the whole show, and everything you can steal and carry away. But the catch is you got to attend the orientation meeting and serve 4 hours in either arrangements. That's where you get to sit down most of the time. Registration, you get to stand up and wear a funny vest that says, "Ask me." I had 2 guys come up once that says, "What should we ask you?" Student tours, and that's where you're going to herd 10 kids and 2 adults around and show them various exhibits and try to explain the exhibits to them. See me after the meeting or at the break.
Tomorrow, we're going to have First Friday Lunch. This is a monthly event, and everyone here is invited. I really don't know if we've hit the limit or not, but we can usually take more people. And I just want to mention tomorrow it's going to start at 11 instead of 11:30 because the speakers need to get there earlier and get out. It's always at Omni Hotel West Side. The speakers are Brian Cho and Sylvia Sarnadova, and let me just give you a little information about them. Let's see, with the intention to help lead and grow a grassroots volunteer program to assist professionals in transition in Houston, the Pay It Forward networking program was started with the simple notion of wanting to help and encourage others. Brian Cho and Sofia Samadova will be talking about the program's mission and its 3 key opportunities for networking, which are tours, training, and panels. The program is primarily for those in transition, but there are ways for those currently employed to become involved as well. And you're all welcome to attend. We subsidize the lunch at $5 a person. We have a corporate liaison program, which is basically, very simply, that you who are active will tell other chemical engineers about our South Texas section events. Travis Fixmer, I'm not sure if Travis is here tonight. Are you here, Travis? If you're here, stand up. I can't see. Okay. Travis developed a web page for his company's intranet. He's at Huntsman, and if anyone wants to do that, he can give you a hand. Otherwise, as we send out emails promoting our various events, just forward them on to the chemical engineers you know who are not currently active. We'd appreciate that. We have a 50-year member here today, and we want to honor him. I will give you a little bit of information about his career. Harmon Kirkpatrick received his bachelor's in chemical engineering at the University of Cincinnati in 1967. During his first assignment with Monsanto, he completed an MBA in 1969 and his master's in chemical engineering in 1975. He is a licensed professional engineer in 9 states, including Texas, and is a chartered engineer in the UK. Harmon is a fellow of the Institute of Chemical Engineers. Harmon began his career in 1967 with Monsanto Chemical Company in Springfield, Massachusetts, as a process engineer. He completed 15 years at Monsanto as a process technology group leader, representing Monsanto on a national air oxidation CMA EPA committee. After completing his master's in 1975, Harmon moved to Clear Lake City. In 1982, he joined Enterprise Products in Mont Belvieu, Texas, as a project manager. In 1990, Harmon joined PCI Engineers in Houston, and in 1991, Remkus Consulting Group in Houston, where he remains active as Senior Vice President of the Industrial International Division after 25 years. Harmon has completed numerous domestic and international field assignments covering all continents, with the exception of the Antarctic. In total, 27 foreign countries. Significant projects in Harmon's career include process specialist on a world-scale grassroots heavy oil cracker in Alvin, Texas, back in the day when we were running out of natural gas liquids, doubling the size of a complex refinery in West Texas and coordinating multiple contractors to do the work, testimony in an international arbitration between a global Japanese engineering firm and the largest contractor in Australia, following a troubled refinery expansion project. And crawling through equipment to perform insurance damage inspections in Kuwait, Venezuela, Thailand, Korea, and Singapore. Harmon has 3 patents, 3 published papers, has presented 4 conference papers, and over 15 seminars. Harmon and wife Patricia have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. He enjoys photography and tennis and has been actively involved in his community associations for 17 years. Patricia recently retired after nearly 40 years as a registered nurse. Most of Harmon's time is now spent working, traveling, and following his grandkids' sporting events. Harmon, congratulations on achieving 50 years of membership.
I will save you the steps. Congratulations. You've got me beat. I've only slept in all the 50 states, so I mean, I can't compare. You got me completely beat. Okay, now we'll bring Matt Kolodny up to talk about K through 12 outreach. Matt?
Thank you very much. Let's see. First thing I wanted to mention very quickly is there's a career day at in Sugar Land, First Colony Middle School, and we hope to do some more of those. I went, and Kelly Richardson joined me, and it was very good. And next we have the Science and Engineering Fair of Houston coming up on Saturday, February 25th. And it's different this year. We'll be doing the judging in the afternoon, 1 to 3, like all other special awarding agencies. And we'd love to have some people come out. Due to the reduced 2-hour time window, we could use a few extra judges this year. And so you'd be there from about 12:30 to 3:30, and then we'll have for networking purposes, we'll have a happy hour for the judges after that. Then Jim Hobstatter, if you could come up. Jim is the coordinating judge for chemical engineering for the Science Fair Place Awards, and he's going to talk for a couple of minutes.
What button do I hit? Pardon? Oh, wrong way.
Did we get it close? Here you go. One more.
Here you go. Okay. Thank you. How many people have judged the science fair? Thank you for volunteering. Now, 3 years ago, I did my first Houston Science Fair. I volunteered for Science Fair for a number of years. My kids participate, and I really enjoyed it. This is my second year coordinating the chemical engineering judging for the Science Fair, and I wanted to take 2 minutes to talk about it. 3, thank you. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I know Matt talked about the special award judging that this group supports, and that's wonderful. I'm talking about the place judging, which is all day, where we decide who are the first, second, third, fourth place winners and who get to advance to the state science fair in San Antonio. So the Houston Science Fair is the largest regional fair in the country. 1,100 projects, kids from 7th grade, 8th grade through high school. It covers the Houston area and then 22 surrounding counties. So it's a very large fair, and really need over 400 judges to actually to make it work. So as far as judges go, the deadline to apply is February 10th. I put some forms on that there. Give the website. It's STS-AIChE.org. The judging will go all day for the place judges. In the morning, we get groups of 3, and we interview the students and then let them talk about their project. 7th and 8th grade is one division, 9th grade is another division, and then the senior high division. Talked about special awards. This year, the good thing is that the science fair is able to provide lunch, so judges get lunch provided as well this year. The last thing I was going to say is there's quite a few categories that are actually involved in as far as where the students can be competing. I chose to highlight some of those in red where I believe us as chemical engineers, where we can actually contribute. So it's not just chemical engineering. There's a need for many different types. I judged in the Clear Creek Fair this year, and I did mechanical engineering. And last year I did chemistry, and I've also done environmental science. And to me, I just love doing it because the kids have so much passion and so much energy, and I really want to encourage that. So I hope we can count on some folks here to sign up and judge this year and support the fair and give the kids some fun and challenge them to grow and learn. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question for this crowd. How many are former science fair winners? Any science fair winners? I won the science fair in 8th grade. I'm a science fair winner. I remember that well. I was really the biggest geek there was, even in 8th grade, yeah. It goes way back. Yeah, exactly. But they play Don Henley. Not too many geeks will play Don Henley. All right. So the next thing we have, we already went through the awards, so we don't need that anymore, okay? We went to OTC, we did that. Young professionals. We have a tremendous young professional group in this organization. It's a real model for, come on, I'm just going to compliment you, so just come up, Morgan. It's a model for a lot of our local sections. We have the strongest young professional group of any local section in the country, and we're proud of that. And so this year, Morgan Reed is our lead YP, following in the great footsteps of Trevor Rice, who did a marvelous job last year. So, Morgan, now that I've really pat you on the back, it's yours.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. All right. Just continuing the tradition, like Trevor, Titania, Carol's been here before. They've done great jobs in the past. Just trying to live up, trying to fill those shoes that those guys have, laid out the groundwork for us. This is just a brief. What are the YPs doing for the month of February? This was our YP planning meeting. What was it, last week? Maybe 2 weeks ago. Started off with a social hour there on your left. Then we were having dinner. It was a great time. We had a great turnout. I think we usually consider anything from 15 to 20 people as a good turnout for a planning meeting. That's mainly because when you show up at a planning meeting, we ask you to volunteer. So just for, if you have any seniors here, we will be asking you, are you going to stay in the Houston area? Well, join the YPs. Come to the planning meeting, you're going to say, are you going to ask me to volunteer? I'm going to say yes. But no, it was great. We had a fantastic turnout. Everybody wanted to volunteer. Everybody wanted to be involved. So it wasn't, hey, you're voluntold to do this, you're voluntold to do that. Everybody wanted a part, and it was fantastic, and I applaud them for doing that. On to some bigger issues. There's a scholarship fund that goes out for Engineering Week. A gracious person donates an actual suite. It's 14 seats, food and drinks included, non-alcoholic beverages. I know some of you were like, yes, I'm going to buy some tickets. But I hope you buy tickets anyway. They're $20 a ticket for one, or you can buy 6 for $100. It's a great investment. You're donating to a scholarship fund, and if you win, you get 14 seats at a Rockets game. So it's a fantastic opportunity to do two things. Potentially win a trip to see our man Harden, and you're donating to a scholarship fund. I already said that. And you can contact me at STS-AIChE. Come by and get a card from me. If you have money today, you can give me money, and I'll send you your certificate showing that you paid, and we'll turn that money in for you. Upcoming events. I always liked distillation whenever I was in school. I wonder why, huh? So I've been in contact with Under the Radar Brewery and the Yellow Rose Distillery. One of the two we'll go to. We may go to both. I don't know. It depends on how much money they want from me and how many people we can get signed up for it. But it's a great way to see reactions and distillation. So if you're interested, go to our webpage. Oh, okay, yeah. We're going to talk about ethanol too. So, and I think there's free samples. So you have to be 21 and up, please. Okay, and then one of the biggest things we do is our YP social hour, YP happy hour. It's a great time for young engineers to get together. expand your network. So if you're a young professional, go onto the website, sign up for the mailing list, or you can stop by Sherlock's February the 10th and discuss a bunch of chemical engineering stuff with other chemical engineers. Hope to see young professionals there. And if you're not a young professional, stop by. You can always act as a mentor. We can ask you questions, but be prepared to be asked a bunch of questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
I think the only subject they really talk about is ethanol. I mean, that's the only thing. It's one continual happy hour in that group. I don't know what it is, but I'm just jealous. All right, so I've accomplished my job by getting us on time. So we will now take the obligatory break for 15 minutes, and then we will start our dinner meeting presentation, biological wastewater treatment in the chemical industry. So 15 minutes, come on back, have some dessert, but back in our chairs in 15. Thank you.
Okay, so do you want me to talk? Is this, what do you want me to do? Just sit here and Move the microphone up. Is that correct?
For those of you who this is your first meeting, Morgan? Where's Morgan? There are mugs with things in them. The mugs. If you would like a mug with some cool YPs, you can come over here and get a YP mug.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's finish up the conversations and get back to your seats. Thank you. Okay. Okay. I got it. I see that. All right, let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this evening. Thank you. You can all tell this is not my first rodeo doing this. Thank you. Let me introduce our speaker for this evening. Leonard Levine is a licensed professional engineer with over 40 years of experience in the design and operation of industrial wastewater treatment facilities, including the development and implementation of operator training programs for wastewater operators. Currently, he serves as the technical director for Gulf Coast Waste Disposal Authority, GCA, where he is responsible for the oversight of technology, selection, design, and operation for all GCA facilities. Leonard has been employed by GCA since 1990. Prior to his career at GCA, he was a consultant who did process design and operational upgrade work in a variety of industrial wastewater treatment sectors. Over the years, Leonard has co-authored and presented technical papers on a variety of subjects, including control of VOC in industrial wastewater treatment facilities, process controls at industrial wastewater facilities, regionalization, disinfection, wastewater analytical, and project implementation. So it is my pleasure to bring up to the podium Leonard Levine. Here's your clicker.
There. First try. You might want to show that. That's a better picture. It looks better. Okay. Right. Well, I want to thank you all for inviting us here. This is the first time I've really spoken. Hasn't been at an environmental specialty conference, so good luck. Okay. Tonight, what we're going to talk about, we're going to give you a little introduction to Gulf Coast Waste Disposal Authority. I'm going to assume nobody in here knows anything about wastewater treatment, so I'm going to give you a little primer on that. And then I'm going to talk about how wastewater treatment plants have evolved over the years in order to try to keep track with the never-ending avalanche of regulations that come forth. Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're going to dismantle all the plants now, right? Okay. Gulf Coast, the state legislature decided that in 1969 that the waters around Galveston Bay needed some work. They were in pretty bad shape, so they decided that they build this entity, give it a lot of different powers, and say, y'all go figure out the problem. Just kind of as a historical note, because I'm that old, that this was the year before the first Earth Day, 2 years before the Clean Water Act, and Texas was already starting to clean up its waters through the legislature. Initially, we were to just cover the 3 areas around Galveston Bay, but later on in the mid-'80s, they decided that we needed to have the authority to operate statewide under certain circumstances. We're governed by political appointees. We have, from the 3 counties, our 3 base counties, 3 are appointed by the governor, 3 are appointed by the Council of Mayors, and 3 by the County Commissioners Court. And since the Prairie View students are here today, we're happy to say that Dr. Osborne Lee is a member of our board. He also paid all the dinners and didn't show up tonight. Okay. One unique thing about us, we are a government, but we really don't collect any taxes directly. All our income comes from services. I can't say we don't take any tax money. If we do services for a municipality, it's up to them where the money comes from. Okay. Like most of you, we have key performance areas, and these are really the things that are responsible for making us so successful: safety, reliability, compliance, and cost effectiveness. We've had people who use our services have gone out and tried to look at what it would cost to do themselves. We ask them when they're going to build their plant, and they say, well, just keep going. So, the way we approach things is we build regional partnerships to address local issues. It seems to be a model that's worked very well for us, and probably our best advertisements are our customers. Right now we have 4 industrial wastewater treatment facilities. There's about 80 different chemical plants. Anybody here work in the Bayport industrial area? Nobody. Okay. Okay. Well, we treat your wastewater. Okay. We also have a plant on the Houston Ship Channel, Bayport Ship Channel, and one out in Odessa that is not on the Odessa Ship Channel. Just to be clear on that. We have a regional municipal wastewater treatment plant. It's over in the Friendswood area. It treats the city of Friendswood and some of the surrounding muds. We have a certified laboratory that's certified to do wastewater for outside entities. We have a captive industrial Class 1 non-hazardous landfill down in Texas City. We have our Odessa facility, and over there on our ship channel, we accept trucked-in waste. We've just started doing industrial reuse in the Houston area. That's not really economical to do industrial reuse because sewer water is pretty cheap. In fact, in West Texas, they're paying more for a barrel of water than they are for 1,000 gallons in Houston. But we do have are selling water out to the oil field out in West Texas. And we've already issued to date over about $3 billion worth of bonds, private activity bonds and tax-exempt bonds. So if anybody's looking at a project and you think it might qualify, get in touch with us. Actually, here's our value added. What we do is we provide services to the chemical companies. Y'all make chemicals. We make our product. We clean up your water. Several people go together. It's going to be cheaper to operate. We've been doing this for 45 years, I think. And in the Bayport area in particular, by having that centralized waste treatment plant, that area has just exploded over the years. Even during '83, for those of you to remember the '80s, that area kept bringing in new plants for that. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about wastewater. Again, I'm assuming nobody knows anything. Okay. I only have, David told me to keep it under 2 hours, so. I'm going to have to generalize a lot on stuff, right? Okay. Everything's going to be simplified. There's an exception to everything I say. I'm not going to do anything comprehensive. I'm going to simplify this. David said I had to throw some technical stuff, so I threw a couple equations in there. And if I say chemical plant, it's kind of a generic term, refineries and so on. I know it's not, but just for the interest of time. We're not talking about industrial wastewater. It's stuff that's used in a process and needs to be cleaned up. I'm going to use the term wastewater. That's kind of a no-no in our business now. Water's supposed to be water now because of all the reuse, but I'm old enough to be able to do what I want. All right. When we're talking about chemical process industry, there's some things that really differentiate from a process standpoint, wastewater treatment and the chemical industry. In the chemical industry, you pretty much have control over your feedstock. You issue certain specifications. If you don't get it, that stuff goes out. You don't come in. We don't. The project purity is that you're shooting for is somewhere between 90 and 98% pure. And if you're looking at doing some improvements in quality, you've all done this. You have to do an economic analysis to see whether they're just going to do that and whether the market's going to support this extra money. On the other hand, in wastewater treatment, we got a lot of variation in our feedstock. We start out with something that's 99% H2O, and that's counting the dissolved chemicals in the salts for the most part. Our product quality is driven by regulations and different laws that come out in the interim. And in some cases, we actually have some regulations that dictate how we have to design things, the actual technology that needs to be used. In terms of variability, this is some actual data. It's a 12-hour online analyzer. The blue line is the organic loading coming into the facility, and that red line down the bottom is the flows. Variation type of water that comes in. It can be pretty variable.
98% pure. And if you're looking at doing some improvements
Key
in
regulations I'm
quality,
going to talk to tonight that have been driving things have been the Clean Water Act, obviously. RCRA, which is the Solid Waste Resource Conservation Recovery Act.
On the other hand,
Clean Air Act, and
our product quality
in
is
our
driven by
business, they all have a
regulations.
different way of demonstrating compliance.
Different
And in
laws
some
that
cases,
come
you
out
can't use
in
the
the
same,
interim.
and to measure the same
And in some
compound, you
cases,
cannot use the
we
same
actually have some
analytical
regulations
technique
that dictate
from one
how we have to design things.
regulation to the other.
The actual technology that needs to be used. In terms of
We
variability, this
we
is some
measure
actual
stuff.
data. It's a 12-hour
We kind of measure a lot of
online
what the impact
analyzer.
it is. We
The
simplify.
blue line is the organic.
And when we
loading
measure in
from the
organics,
facility.
we measure oxygen demand, how much oxygen it takes, either biochemically or chemically oxidize it. Now, the interesting thing about the BOD test, the biochemical oxygen demand, you take some stuff, you put it in a bottle, you wait 5 days, and you measure how much oxygen is being used. Now, where did 5 days come from? A very scientific thing. It's how long it takes to get from one, if you just float down the Thames River. Good. All right. Relation, and kind of as a rule of thumb, the relationship between the BOD and COD is known only to GOD. So, we know carbon content, excuse me. We also sometimes measure the amount of organic carbon in the waste material. That's called TOC. And we have a tendency to like to measure classes of compounds: organic nitrogen, phenols, oil and grease. But we also have to measure specific compounds: phenol, benzene, etc. We measure inorganics as the particular inorganics. And on these other ions,
relation,
I know
and
nitrogen.
kind of as a rule
ammonia
of
may be
thumb, the
considered
relationship
organic, but
between the BOD and COD
we
is
measure
known
the
only to GOD.
ammonia, chloride, sulfates, all those different cations in there. When we measure stuff at really low levels. We start out with milligrams per liter, and on these other ions, parts per billion, micrograms per liter, nanograms per liter, and in cases of things like dioxide, we measure micrograms per liter. Ammonia, one of the things that this is really useful for are for people that want to advocate a position.
When we measure stuff at really low levels.
You're discharging 500 parts per billion into the environment.
Billion,
No, we're not. We're only half a part per
liter,
billion. And we have special sampling and testing requirements that we have. Here's just
The
an
things
illustration
that
of how this is really
variabilities
useful.
you can
For
see
all types of waste, chemical companies. There's even some that are even much lower than that, like a polyethylene plant has just virtually nothing in it. And we deal with these types of waste. Now I'm going to start talking about some of the more technical stuff. First thing we do is the main thing that wastewater treatment was originally designed to do was to reduce oxygen, for in industry anyway, was to reduce oxygen demand on the streams. You put organic material, you put nitrogen in the water, you're going to grow bacteria. Bacteria use oxygen. Oxygen in the stream disappears. Fish don't like that. And so they turn over and die. The other big thing was, the really biggest thing for a long time for municipal waste was public health. And I didn't have that slide in here, but in 1900, there was an abnormally large amount of deaths from waterborne diseases. Once they started putting in proper disinfection, it's not. I heard someone say something about overheads. These were originally overheads. Okay. Biological treatment is simple. You start out with bacteria, eat some food, it divides. You have two. Obviously, these are from Gulf Coast. They're all smiling. And you end up with a little bit of food left over. No, this next one's a technical slide. Okay. Basic, you have food, you have organics, oxygen, and the way to grow, you can't grow more bacteria without having the proper nutrients, and we're always talking about nitrogen and phosphorus for that. And what you end up with some carbon dioxide, bacteria, and organics. Real simple thing. And then you take your bacteria out. Otherwise, the bacteria use up water, oxygen in the water. Doesn't work. This is really the simplest form of a biological treatment system. It's called the aerated lagoon. What you do is you put the wastewater heads in a basin, you aerate it, and bacteria start to grow. Biological treatment. This particular one is 160 acres. If you have a lot of surface area, these are earthen bond. This doesn't operate like this anymore, but this is what it was like back then. The amount of bacteria grows depending on how much waste comes in here. Like I said, it's 160 acres, or for any of you old farm people, it's a quarter of a section. So it worked pretty well. The kind that really simple, mostly in use right now, bacteria, eat some food, it divides, sludge process. We use aerobic bacteria. It's a suspended growth process. And we may take out some inorganic compounds, but it's just by accidental absorption. Work pretty well. The kind that really, you have your organics come in here, we spray bugs for bacteria, such process. It fits a whole lot better. We use aerobic bacteria. But you go into an aeration basin, the bacteria grow in there, you keep your conditions correct. You go to a clarifier, everybody here has had unit operations, you know how clarifiers work. So you settle the bacteria to the bottom, and then you collect that bacteria and you put it into the aeration basin so you can have more bacteria and you can treat waste quicker. Obviously, closed loop systems do not work. So what we do is with some of the bacteria that's growing, the bacteria to the bottom, we go ahead and then you dispose of it, take the water out of it. That's the magical waste sludge that you probably aeration basin, so you can have more bacteria and you can treat waste quicker. Okay. Obviously, closed loop systems do not work. So what we do is with some of the bacteria, we have some basic process kinetics. Typically, when you're designing a plant, you have a bunch of different compounds that degrade over a whole bunch of different rates, and we just kind of lump them all together and say this is what happens to the wastewater. Okay. It's impacting the temperature. So what we do is with some of the bacteria, process kinetics, to be able to substrate. To kind of show how long it takes to treat this waste by volume. In this case here, this is substrate that starts, the substrate E is substrate that goes out, that X is the amount of bacteria, L is the rate. S of B is obviously what goes out. What that says is the lower you have the volume, the more you have to remove, the bigger the tank is. In terms of impacting kinetics, there's a lot of things that could do same type of waste, you can put some material in there that'll actually inhibit the way the bacteria works, and they won't do that. If you don't have enough oxygen, the reaction rate is limited. If you don't have a lot of nutrients, what happens is you don't have enough nutrients, you can't build bacteria.
Same type
And
of
you have
waste,
to take
you
it
can
all
put
the way
some
over
material in there
to
that'll
carbon
actually
dioxide without
inhibit the
going
way the
through the
bacteria works
bacteria
and
building mode, and that takes a lot of time. It's a much slower reaction, very temperature sensitive. If you don't have your pH in the right range, you can actually stop biological active bacteria. Same plants actually stop dead cold carbon dioxide, pH right in the back range of the building mode. Slower reaction, very temperature sensitive. You all recognize the Arrhenius equation. It works in wastewater the same way, except once you get above 35 to 40 degree range, depending on the system, okay, yeah, show there, show the slides. The bacterial, the reaction rate will actually decrease. And again, reminded before this, that's 95 to 105 degrees. The bacterial, when you get cold, you can actually have a rapid theta can actually, again, as long you can have a rapid decrease in your ability to treat the waste. Reminded before that happens, so it's 95 to 55 to 65 degrees, and for when you get cold, particularly substrates that can be when we put oxygen in the water, most of the time it's when we're using atmospheric oxygen. There's a couple ways we use surface aerators, use air. Rate that the oxygen, which is the amount of energy you need to put it in. There is oxygen in water, very high temperature. That's just guess. We're using atmospheric oxygen. You can't, if you're trying to keep a certain minimum oxygen level, if the temperature is high, saturation goes up. It's lower, it's going to take more energy. One of the ways that we're particularly in the old days, pretty common, surface aerators, high-speed surface aerators. Over there on the right, this thing is run about between 1,200 and 1,700 RPM. So water in the air, they're really good. Make a real small drop. One of the ways to transfer oxygen, they're really good at cooling, and there's aerators that have high-speed surface stripping things out of water. In the lower left, there's our low-speed surface areas. Aerators, there's water in the air, pretty well geared down to be under about 100 RPM range over there. More efficient than the other, obviously more costly because it's big gear. And then the lower left perspective, since it is Super Bowl week, if you'd have a hard time fitting it on the football inside the Reliance Center. You certainly wouldn't be able to play football while it was in there. Maybe on the bottom you could, but the rest of it wouldn't. But that would take out all the solids that were in there. The next step, and is again typical of pulp and paper plants in that day and age, we had a cooling tower. It was just a normal contact cooling tower, a bunch of wooden slats, water goes through, it cools off, and that is as well how they help control temperature. In the aeration basins, activated sludge, clarifiers, and then discharge to the ship channel. So, 1972, Clean Water Act was passed. By 1985, every water in the United States was going to be fishable and swimmable. It's really a framework for all the kind of future laws that came out. One of my favorite parts is they actually define classes of pollutants in here. Prior to 1972, depending on where you built a plant, you would have discharge limits based on what the individual state thought the stream could handle. As part of the Clean Water Act, they said everybody from a particular type of industry has to meet a protected certain
Since it is
floor
Super Bowl
in
week,
terms of
you'd
treatment
have a hard time fit.
And
Glasses of
you have to meet
poison
whatever the
here.
state says, that the water quality standards have to be in the stream.
Prior
And for the
to
first time, it actually made a
1972,
national
depending on where
permitting
you built
system.
the plant, you would have
And this
discharge
was, when they
limits
developed
based on
that,
what the state bought
again,
the stream
they
to
had to come back and
handle.
they borrowed from Texas on what Texas
As part of the
already
Clean
had in
Water Act, they
place.
said everybody
And there
from a
was a-
particular type of
Believe it or
industry
not,
has to
there was a
meet it.
lot of huge cry at the time. It was a permit purpose. You couldn't give people permits.
And
obviously, that's not the way
the
it
water quality standards have to be in the stream.
All right, this is self-explanatory. I've always wanted a slide like this. That's Public Law 92-500, that is the Clean Water Act. NPDES is a National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. That's developed that thing that goes in. The technology standards, the first phase, they were going to have defined by, everybody was going to meet by 1977 as the best practical control
That's
technology.
Public Law 92-500, that is the Clean
By
Water Act.
1983, everybody was going to have
NPDES is
best
a
available control technologies.
Pollution discharge elimination system.
Some of the technologies weren't defined.
Technology
so permit
standards, the
writers had
first
to use
phase,
their
they were going to have
best
defined by
judgment in
everybody was
deciding what these are. So a lot of the early designs that
Public Law 92-500, that is the Clean Water Act.
1983, 1972 is also the year I graduated. Started doing that stuff. A lot of the early design work that we did was actually to demonstrate technologies by reactor studies, power plants, getting early designs that people were saying this is the best available technology right now because they didn't have 1972 technology. In 1987, they really came out with early design work that we wanted to probably impact on us the most. Organic chemicals, plastics, and synthetic fiber guidelines, and STS-AIChE standards. These were not different technology. In 1987, 70 different specific organic chemicals, plastics, and synthetic fiber. Another thing is the Clean Water Act actually defines these are conventional, but they're not. Then they had 67 topics. But in 1987, and then they said, we have conventional and toxic, and then we have non-toxic. Another thing is the Clean Water Act. Modern. Yeah, I have no idea what just happened there. Okay. All right. You figure this out. What was all the requirements in that permit? Okay, there we go. Thank you. You guess MVP today. So. Permit looks like possibly, there it is. And there's some additional requirements that are written in writing there, one of which is that we have to do these things called a wet test, which is basically a monitoring test, and you put these little bacteria in there and you see whether they die or if the eggs don't form the same in these little cups that they have. And if they don't, then you've got to try to figure out what happened. Back in the 80s, before stuff, this is what a treatment plant might work at. This is our Bayport facility. Gulf Coast treats all the wastewater from the Bayport Industrial Complex. That area has been growing like crazy since it was first done. I'm going to show you the original Bayport treatment plant here. I know we have a laser pointer. Modern day plant, that's a sump. But that was the original treatment plant. Well, at this time, the wastewater came in. We went to an earthen lagoon where we let the wastewater mix to take out some of that variability. We went into 2 different activated aeration basins and 2 sets of clarifiers. And finally, we went to some ponds and then went out. The interesting thing about this, we have very long sludge age to surface aerators. I would say surface aerators are really good cooler, really good at cooling. And what we found is that little tiny plant over here during the winter could treat almost as much as this big plant during the winter. And that's because of the temperature differential. But, you know, we were able to operate the plant. We had enough capacity designed in there, and it went fine until later on. About 1967 and 80, RECRA came along. They had one of the key things in RECRA is the waste generators was responsible until forever for the waste that's generated. And they define hazardous waste. You have your listed waste and your characteristic waste. Characteristic waste is you test something that's higher than this, it's hazardous. One of the difficult things to deal with in terms of listed waste, they have this list of things, and no matter what's in it, you have waste from this particular process, hazardous waste, and if you take one drop and you put it in your swimming pool, everything in your if you want to throw away that water, everything in your swimming pool is hazardous waste. It's called the mixture rule. Anything it touches, which means if you're operating a wastewater plant and you have a listed waste stream going into it, all of the sludge that you're generating from treating all the wastewater now has to be managed as a hazardous waste, which is in '86 they came out with, as part of the HISWA, they came out with land-based restrictions, and what that says, you cannot manage hazardous waste in a treatment facility, in a land-based treatment unit. That means that all these earthen basins, if they received a stream that was a hazardous waste, which meant 0.5 part per million benzene, then that was no longer allowable. It had to be treated into a tank. It didn't matter what the concentration inside that basin is what was going into the basin. So even though the concentration comes in at part per million and you have 10 parts per billion inside that basin, it still can't do that. So a lot of people had to get out of their land-based units or get rid of the benzene before it came in, and there's some other compounds. Benzene is just an easy one to remember. And some people actually changed methods in their production unit. You don't see as much carbon tetrachloride in use as you used to back then, and again, because of this. Now, the good news, if anything that mixed in the sewer, you tested what came out of the sewer, not at the source. One more thing I want to say about RECRA. RECRA actually had defined technology in it. The regulations came out, it says, if you're going to do this, it has to be done like this. As opposed to Clean Water Act, it's pretty much, you have to meet these standards. We don't care how you do it. Then we had the Clean Air Act came out. And got all another acronyms here. And that's the Maximum Achievable Control Technology. So for certain things you had your control technology, but you also had certain ambient standards. For example, ozone. That's one that impacted us particularly in the Houston area. If you're not meeting the standard, then the state had to come up with an implementation plan. In the 90s, they came out with some, 2 things hit. One was the benzene NESHAPs, which was the national emission standards for hazardous. And in the Houston-Galveston area, we also had a state implementation plan that required the control of ozone. So the first thing we had the benzene NESHAPs, we had the Reg 5 that came out of the state on how to control air emissions from, which included a provision in wastewater So no longer could you collect wastewater in these open channels. You had to actually have confined pipes. Then we came out with my actually favorite acronym of all is the SOCME-HAN, and you'll see in a minute why it's my favorite. It's the Synthetic Organic Chemical Manufacturing Industry Hazardous Organic NESHAPs, another acronym inside an acronym. And that had even stricter standards, particularly dealing with emissions from wastewater plants. And all of a sudden, here we are operating wastewater plants, and we have to get air permits. And we also had to start designing to control air emissions. And that was a little different thing. Now, measuring them off a wastewater plant is a little bit different than in a process plant. A process plant, you go up to your emission source, you measure it, and you get a reading. We don't do that. We have to measure what's coming in the water and put it in these magic models. And these models tell you what's going out, what's going to come out of the plant. So it doesn't matter what you do, and that's what you're regulated by. And for all these different compounds that come into your plant, and I think at Bayport, I think we measure like 100 of them coming in. Each of them has a separate biodegradation coefficient, those K rates, and the model goes ahead and does that. If you don't agree with it, you can do some testing and come up with one that's different, that's site-specific. They use octal water partitioning coefficient to determine how much is going to stick onto the sludge that's in there. And in terms of sinks, obviously you have some left over going out in the water. In terms of what's transferred, everything's transferred based on Henry's law. They calculate how much is going to be stripped out. You have the surface area and the aeration system. All of a sudden, these high-volume aeration systems, like the coarse air system, all of a sudden you start getting more emissions out of there than you did on some of these other systems. Surface aerators were horrible. It's like the best strippers ever invented. So, as a result, designs of the system started changing. At Bayport, we made some changes on that.
Even that's what you're regulated by.
Part of it was because, not that we had hazardous waste coming into the facility, but we had a commitment to our industrial users wanted us to make sure that we didn't have any potential liabilities coming in down the future, so they asked us to stay out of earthen basins and for treatment units. So we put in these first step aeration tanks, and we put in the jet, we had to modify our systems to put in jet aeration systems, got rid of all our surface aerators, kept the temperature up. We put in a second step system. The advantage of this is in the first step system, we're getting most of our our volatile organic removal rates. We get a very high rate in there. We get like 80, 90, probably get 90 to 95% destruction just in that high rate first step tank. And then we can go ahead and treat the wastewater. Gosh, wastewater in a wastewater plant, huh? The clarifiers, disinfection tank. And our return sludge, this will make sense later, would go back to the front of the plant to the first step basins. Well, we were really good at controlling temperature. We didn't have any low temperature problems anymore, but we did have temperature problems. The red line is the way to the plant. The blue line was the waste temperature coming out of that first step tank. Now, it had nothing to do with compressed air, the amount of compressed air into it. And the reason I can tell you that is we put more compressed air per cubic foot into the second step, which is what the green line is, and we actually see a temperature drop. It's the way, it's the biological waste treatment is exothermic, and that's strictly.
Well, we were really good at controlling temperature.
Well, that also kicked us up above those magic numbers, and we started having treatment problems. Well, we had to put in some kind of cooling, but remember, we can't put the aerators in there anymore. We can't do anything up front because
Low
we have the
temperature.
VOC
Raise
controls.
the waste
So we got
temperature.
really innovative here, and we put a cooling tower in for the return sludge. And we out, so return sludge, instead of going right to the cooling towers we still use this system during the summer months, which are getting longer as we go along. We go through the cooling tower and then put it back in there, and the cool water mixes with the warm water and gives us cooling. The other thing that we started using is looking at reducing the gas flow by going to oxygen. You can get pretty high transfer efficiency if you use pure oxygen. You have to buy it. It's not free like air. And that's because the saturation coefficient is a lot higher. It's over 40 degrees rather than 9 degrees at 20 degrees Celsius. However, remember the CO2 that you're generating? Okay. All right. If you have too high rate of system and you have too much CO2 going, then your pH drops. Remember, don't forget the pH. We have to stay in that pH range, and that doesn't work. So there's a kind of a balance in there. At Bayport, we kind of use a hybrid in our first step tanks of air and oxygen to get. We don't mix them together; they come in separately, but to get our transfer in there. That first air system we saw, that nice aerated lagoon system, obviously that wasn't going to meet any air emission standards. We had to upgrade that, and we turned that into a pure oxygen activated sludge facility. This is single line basins because there's no hazardous waste going in. It's in there. It has one synthetic liner, which makes it still a land-based treatment unit. And waste comes in, activated sludge, and then goes through a series of ponds, just kind of little oxidation ponds. We're using what's called an ISO unit in here. This is an floating oxygen injection unit. Oxygen comes in, it's a down-forcing mixer, shears the oxygen, and it has that little hood there that's supposed to trap any extra bubbles and recirculate it. Okay. You remember the paper mill plant? This is our Washburn Tunnel plant. Well, the paper mill shut down because part of it was mostly because they couldn't compete with all the
Floating oxygen
environmental
injection
improvements
unit.
they would have to make.
Oxygen comes in, it's a down.
Let me point out that our Washburn Tunnel plant also takes
mixer,
part in waste.
shears the oxygen, and has a
So, first thing, no more cooling tower.
supposed to
Cooling
trap
towers
any extra
don't work
bubbles
on untreated waste
recirculate.
anymore.
Can compete with those oxygen injection
Oxygen
unit.
activated sludge, first step system, again like Bayport, we have a
Oxygen comes
two-step
in, it's a
system.
down. Let me point out that our Washburn Tunnel
And in this
plant
particular
also-
case, the waste coming in was low enough that we didn't have to worry about the pH
Oxygen.
problem.
It has
But
a-
we had all these good,
So,
nice surface
first
aerators
thing,
in the
no more
back,
cooling tower.
and we ran our temperature models. We found out we could actually keep our temperature cool enough in the back end during the summer, so we use that. And we go out. All right, well, Bayport kept growing, and industries kept coming in, so our emissions kept going up, and we had to eventually put covers on our tanks and put in a thermal oxidizer to keep controlling our emissions. Everybody says we don't treat wastewater anymore, we clean air. Unfortunately, they're right. Okay, let me see it here. Oh, the other thing we had to do, we had a lift station. We had an enclosed pipeline that came into a lift station. We had to
The
take
loading,
some rags
the
out.
waste coming in
Kind of
was
blood drains. And so we have to collect that wastewater. The air emissions from that we use some exhaust blowers, and we use the second step basin as a biological removal mechanism, air that comes off the first step. The bacteria actually broke it down. We actually had to go to the state and do a bunch of testing and demonstrate that I think we're the ones in the country to get this approved, that type of control technology approved. But we're not done yet. Okay, we're done. Okay, we're done. Almost done tonight. Don't worry. Latest things that are coming out. In the Houston-Galveston area, there's a concern about bacteria in our waterway. There's a lot of data that show that a good deal of that is from non-point sources or people that discharge waste. Doesn't matter, you can't control those. In one particular study, they've shown that a lot of bacterial levels in the oyster beds that people are concerned about are due to migratory fowls. That's right, migratory fowl. It comes in. You see the migration pattern in here. Here's the level. Birds come, they go away. And unfortunately, increased hunting licenses is not a control technology that's accepted. So, and we don't really measure the pathogens. We have to measure indicator bacteria, because in order to measure bacteria, you have to grow it. And growing stuff that's going to make you sick is kind of frowned upon. So instead, we grow some indicator bacteria, which is, of course, present everywhere. And so it's getting more and more industrial permits now. We're starting to see bacterial limitations put on their discharges. We've recently upgraded our Washburn Tunnel plant with a peracetic acid disinfection system. I think it's still the biggest one in the country until the Memphis plant comes online. And we upgraded our disinfection system at Bayport. And we had to do it at our municipal plant too. Right now, the EPA had been making a lot of rustling about temperature of your discharge. They used to be able to allow you to, as long as you keep the water body in compliance, now they're getting concerned about conditions close to your outfall. But those things may go away. That's it. You all stayed awake, most of you, and I appreciate that.
We do have time for one or two questions. If we can out, just wait for me, please, so everyone can hear the question with the microphone. I'm coming. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Larry Criswell. In the 70s, Celanese developed an anaerobic system that produced methane as a byproduct. Is that any usefulness in your business?
Yeah, actually, in order to put a system in an anaerobic system, I'm glad you asked that question. That's a good answer. I even have a good answer for it. You can't always treat anything, all wastewater with anaerobic. We were looking in the
70s,
process of about
Celanese developed an anaerobic system that produced methane as a byproduct.
giving away natural
Is that
gas
any
in building.
usefulness
So
in your business?
yeah,
Actually, in order to put a system in
the wastewater, our particular characteristics of our wastewater do not allow us to get good reaction kinetics for the anaerobic system.
You can't
There's
always
also
treat
some concerns that
all
if
wastewater
your ratio of
with
sulfates
70s, Celanese developed an anaerobic
to the
system
amount of organic material in there,
as a byproduct.
by treating it
Is that any
gets too high, you can get
usefulness to
so really
actually, in order to put a system in
the wastewater, our particular characteristics of our wastewater do not allow us. It really doesn't fit every wastewater. And around here, everybody's sitting back on the wastewater. Also, water usage
all wastewater
ratio of sulfates dissolved
70s, Celanese developed an anaerobic
to the
system
amount of organic material.
Hi, I'm Vic Edwards. Thanks for a wonderful presentation. That was an excellent overview.
Well, thank you.
Do you have any, I know the voice are so bigger in the systems you're operating. Maybe you were to do this, can you give an order of magnitude range of costs, say BOD removal or per gallon of, per 1,000 gallons treated, or any other, are there any guideline, any ballpark numbers for cost ranges for those kinds of things?
Okay. Probably. Okay. Off the top of my head, I really can't give you those numbers because, again, the waste changed so much. It's what for a particular type of waste for a particular size of facility. Those things you can come up with in a certain type of area. Where you get into things like particularly on operating costs, you have a lot of fixed operating costs any place you go. You know, it takes the same number of people to treat, 5 million gallons of waste.
Yeah.
So the cost per 1,000 gallons for operating costs are going to be obviously a certain higher. Some of your expendable costs.
Where you get into things like particularly on operating costs,
nutrients,
you have a lot of fixed
electricity,
operating
that's
costs.
going to probably
Any place you
depend a
go.
lot on.
It takes the
So it's just so site
same
specific.
number of
that
people
it's really hard to put a
to treat.
Thanks.
5
I have
million.
another question. I see you've had to cover some aeration
Things like particularly on
errors,
operating
nutrient
costs,
sludge
you have a lot of
units,
fixed
electricity,
and I know that can present problems. One thing that I always worry about in doing that is having a spill of a flammable material on one of the upstream plants.
So it's just so
Getting into the
specific.
aeration process of getting
Problems.
One thing that I always worry about in doing that is having create a flammable mixture in the top of the tank.
Yeah, we,
Spill of flammable.
we had to implement a
So
small version of the STS program. We have all kinds of interlocks and LEL monitors in our facilities. LEL gets above our action level underneath those domes.
We,
basically shut off all the flow. We have a rec road. We had to implement a basin we divert into until the incident is over. We have all kinds of interlocks. We have a lot of interlocks.
Thanks very much.
Time for just one more question. I see a hand coming over.
we shut off all the.
Yeah, these are two great questions, but I even had the answers to them.
You probably paid them off.
Do you have to deal with stormwater as well as processed water? And then the second question is, because you're treating water from so many different
Time for just one
plants,
more question. I see a hand.
have incompatibilities between two wastewater?
Yeah, these are two great questions, but I even had the answers.
You probably paid them off.
One of the unique aspects of, and I know it's in
Do you have to deal with stormwater as well as
organic
processed
chemicals,
water?
plastics, synthetic fibers, wastewater, and I think it's
because you
other
were treating
guidelines and all. Also, any water that falls in the process area is considered the same as if it came off the
Probably paid them off.
Some of the unique aspects of, I know it's the same thing. It's considered that. So yeah, we have to treat processed water. There's some things you can do where guidelines, if you have a very any water that falls in first flush water, and after that you can discharge it. But you have to design your collection system like that. And the second one was the mixtures of waste and how we keep incompatible waste. Well, Gulf Coast, we have a system in place, and we've had it in place since, since forever. Before wastewater can come in here, we do test it. Some things you can do or compatibility. In our case, we go through, we give everybody a questionnaire that's this monster. It's not as bad as it looks, by the way, if you want to come tomorrow.
But that's, you have to design your collection system.
And you can,
The second one was.
you fill it out and we screen it. And if there's a particular question as to whether we can take that waste or how
We
much
go
of that
through, we give
particular
everybody a
waste
question
in there,
This
we'll actually run this We've got enough experience to tell this particular type of
and you
waste.
can,
It's not
second
gonna
one
get-
was.
Fill it out and we screen it.
Okay, we have several of our attendees that have quite a long drive back. So we're going to hold it. We're going to hold it here, and we're going to again thank Leonard for
I've run out of
being to us.
answers.
After hearing his humor, I might say he's here all week, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case. And again, your gift for speaking is the very clicker that you're holding in your hand. That is your speaker's gift. So treat it nicely. And again, I thank you all for attending. And our next meeting is March 2nd. Here at Freddie Planning. Drive safe. After hearing his humor, I might say he's here all week, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case.